Let's do this. What do you think? I'm kind of spontaneous, so I never really know what time I'm going to come on, so I hope you don't mind. We have a plan to channel those who have helped, well, not everyone, but people in history who have held the torch for democracy. So that's what we're doing. It's Wednesday night. It's about 7:36 Eastern Standard Time. And usually, we don't want to see just half a set girl. Usually at this time I'm having the psychic and the sidekick with my buddy Corey. But he's off gallivanting somewhere, so now it's just us. I don't really have a list, but I want to just ask for requests on the topic of people who have crossed over to the other side, who have held the torch for democracy. But, oh, thank you, you're so sweet. That's why I come on. Feed my ego! So, the moon is in Aquarius today, so this is kind of a good day for this. And I'm just going to grab some tea. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. It's just over here. So there's so much going on in the news, so I thought maybe this would be a nice little break. And I really do want to consult with, like our founding fathers and people who have, who came before us, that so much held democracy as, the beacon of hope and of just I don't know, just dignity and humanity and compassion and kindness. They held the torch for that. So, I haven't done this in a while. I haven't done this since July. And here's what I'm thinking. We'll wait for a few more people to show up. The news is crazy. Hello, Joe. The news is crazy lately. And we are just sort of processing everything that's going on, or not. I mean, I woke up to the news that China's gonna invade Taiwan, they think, and Joe Biden is standing by Taiwan. So we would get involved in that if it happened. But I'm not doing those kind of predictions tonight. We'll save that for Friday. I'm thinking Ruth Bader Ginsburg. These I had channeled before too. I'm thinking John Lewis. I'm thinking Elijah Cummings. We can start there. This is like a little history test. We're looking for people to channel. Maybe they'll just pop in. FDR. JFK, RBG, all the initials. Let's see, maybe Rosa Parks. I think we did. Well, these are names that we had channeled before. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I know she was on the list before to channel Rosa Parks. We can channel Rosa Parks. Martin Luther King. Yeah. These I have channeled before. So, which is fine. I mean, definitely we can tune in again because they're always around us, and things have changed a bit since July, slightly. So let's Lincoln. Did we say Abe Lincoln? We could start with, we probably should start with Abraham Lincoln because he went through almost the same thing we're going through. Because there was a civil war, and we're in a civil war now. Did anybody notice? It's really, really different, but we're in a civil war now. So let's tune in. Y'all can tune in too. Let's see. I'm thinking Lincoln. Okay. Abe Lincoln. John Marshall, they have to be people that people know. You know, real common names that everybody knows. Because sometimes there are names up there that's like, yeah, I do that, but nobody really knows who that is. Just a few. Okay. Setting a vibe. I already set the vibe. Let's talk to Lincoln. Before we talk to Lincoln, I'm thinking of a silly song we used to sing. Lincoln, Lincoln, I've been thinking, what the heck have you been drinking? Let's go to Abe Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. I sense that Abraham Lincoln looked much different than he's depicted in the photos, the small amount of photos that we have of him and the drawings. I feel like Abraham Lincoln looked much different. And I have a sense about him that he didn't feel like he was a very good speaker. I'm getting from Abraham Lincoln, he didn't feel like he was a very good speaker, which is so interesting because we think of him as a great orator, but he didn't think of himself as a very good speaker. But he's saying, but I have something to say. And he's quoting, might have been Thomas Paine. He's quoting, he's saying the quote, these are the times that try men's souls. Men and women, he's winking, he's men and women too. These are the times that test human souls. And he was a God-fearing man. Abraham Lincoln feels like he couldn't have done what he did without a strong faith, and he's also given me a strong sense that he knew of his assassination. And I just as a side note, I also got that about Martin Luther King in the past when I channeled him. So Abraham Lincoln was a man of faith, and he was willing to do what it took to save our republic. And he's saying what's happening now, he's saying there are many observers on the other side of what's happening in America now. And he's pointing to darkness has come across the oceans. Darkness has come in. It's almost like we've imported darkness from across the oceans. And that is a different element. We had that in the Revolutionary War. That is a different element to have this much coming from across the oceans. So America being kind of a melting pot for more and more billions of people than were here then. It's become a different organism. And he's really pointing, Abraham Lincoln is pointing really strongly to the ballots. He's showing me the ballots. And he's saying if the ballots don't get to all the people, you no longer have a democracy. So I'm going to ask him, because democracy was about all the ballots to all the people, all the ballots to all the people. So Abraham Lincoln is pointing to that. So I'm going to ask him for advice for us now. I'm getting the sense that Abraham Lincoln is saying for us to drop everything and go. Drop everything and go to the polls. Drop everything, make it known that voting has to be saved. Drop everything, make it the most important thing. For some reason, Abe Lincoln is telling me something about Martha Washington. I mean, I know she was long before Abe Lincoln, but he's saying something about Martha Washington. He's saying that when Martha Washington was in the White House, she told George Washington how to run this country. And Abraham Lincoln is saying if we go back and we see, if it's documented, I'm not sure, what Martha Washington did and said, that would be of help to us. And if that's hard for us to find, go to Eleanor Roosevelt. Go, and so Abraham Lincoln is pointing me to the women, to the women, to the women. That's what he's pointing to Martha Washington, because she was the first lady. Go to the women's ideas. Go to the women's ideas of how to have a nation of justice for all. Definitely Abraham Lincoln is pointing to the women as if, yeah, he's saying the women weren't doing the fighting on the battlefields and the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln is telling me that the women are the holders of democracy. And he's saying, we must do what it takes, do what it takes, do whatever it takes, do whatever it takes. And I'm just now seeing the organization, the Lincoln Project, and he's nodding and kind of snickering. He thinks it's funny. He's definitely saying there are more of you than there are of them, meaning those that are enemies of democracy. And Abraham Lincoln is letting me know that there's more good that's happening here than we can see, than what's being shown. And Abraham Lincoln has given me the sense that he's really seeing this as a very good country now. It's a very good country, in the sense that there are very good people, lots and lots of very good people. But the voting, everybody has to vote. And if everybody votes, we will keep our democracy. It is done. So that was Abraham Lincoln. I find it curious that he was pointing to the women. Anybody know anything about that? I'll be checking in between just to see. Yeah, and I mean Abe Lincoln was giving me the sense that the good people that are here will save our democracy, but it was almost like, but the women know how to do it. You know? And I don't know what Martha Washington, I mean, do we ever see anything about Martha Washington? Because he was pointing to the first lady. And that the first lady, he was pointing to women as organizers. Abraham Lincoln was pointing to the women as organizers. And it was really encouraging that. Okay, so that kind of brings to mind, let's move up. I feel like I'm far away. Let's move up a little bit. Like when I go back in the seat, I've sunken into a different dimension. Let's go back a little bit to, or forward to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Because I think RBG has a lot to say. Okay. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Let's ask her about the Supreme Court. Okay, we're going to meet Ruth. Oh, she's very present. Oh, she's much more present than she ever was right after she passed. She's winking at me. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is winking at me. She's giving me a little smile and she's winking. She's really cute. Why is she, okay, Ruth, why are you winking? What are you winking at? What's going on? Once again, I do remember this from before. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is saying there's so much happening that we don't know about, but it's in the positive. So she's talking about what the guides on the other side, those who have crossed over, are up to. she's saying we're sort of behind the curtain and we're not showing ourselves, but we're there, so don't think that we're not there. And she thought that Ketanji Brown Jackson did an amazing job her first day on the court. Okay, so Ruth, what's going on in that Supreme Court? She's saying it wasn't always this way. There was a time that the Supreme Court was fair and just. And she's pointing to Trump, that when Trump got in, everything changed, and she got around it as best she could, but she pretty much couldn't speak to the idiocy that she was seeing. She couldn't speak to the Supreme Court justices like Brett Kavanaugh that just didn't really let things be thought through deeply. On the surface Supreme Court, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And she's saying Ketanji Brown Jackson will show them how it's done. And she's pointing to that Ketanji Brown Jackson is kind of behind the scenes being told to not be so bright. That's interesting. How can she not be so bright? But she won't listen to that. KBJ will not listen to people telling her not to highlight her intellect and her education, to not highlight it. So there's somebody, and I'm getting, for entertainment purposes only, I feel like Justice Roberts is in sneaky ways trying to get Ketanji Brown Jackson to not speak up in the way that she does so eloquently. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg has given me the sense that she's whispering in Ketanji's ear. And she's giving me a sense that Ketanji will be a rock. She'll be a rock that won't budge, and that's what the Supreme Court needs. And she's pointing to the other women on the Supreme Court that are good. The two others that are good. And it's like they're building, like rocks together, big rocks together. It's giving me the sense of, like biblical, like building the church on a rock, like really giving me a strong sense of those women being, boy, she's pointing to the women too. Ruth is giving me the sense that when the women unite and they don't take no for an answer like they did in the suffragette movement, women will not be able to be stopped. She's clear about that. She's giving me a sense, RBG is giving me the sense that once the women get moving, once the momentum gets moving, this election, there'll be an unstoppable force, just like in the suffragette movement. The guides, so far Lincoln and RBG are pointing to, I just see waves of women, waves of like the women being so able to bear pain, not that we'll be in pain, but just like bearing a child's labor, and so able to have stamina and more strength than a man could ever imagine. She's saying, well, men didn't bear children. It's a different kind of strength. It's an intellectual strength. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is pointing to the intellectual strength that will conquer this darkness. Those who are smart and able have to rise up. This is an opportunity. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is saying, this is an opportunity. This is not the end of the world. We have an opportunity. Take the opportunity. When opportunity knocks, if you don't answer the door, you don't get the gift. This is an opportunity for the women to show their power, to demonstrate their power. We have to stand up. This election, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is saying this election is up to us. And she's also saying she saw it coming. Taking away women's rights, she saw it coming. She saw it coming. And she's saying we cannot let these women die in vain. Because women are dying. Because they're not getting the care that they need. Let that be our motivation. And she's pointing to Iran, like what happened in Iran. It was a woman dying that caused the women there to protest. And we have different conditions in the United States, and it will work here. It will work here. Own your power, don't lose faith. And she just winked again and off she went. Own your power and don't lose faith. That goes for the women out there. Let's see if we're still on. Not really sure what I said, but I hope it was good. I'll listen later. Yeah, man, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Lincoln. It's so fascinating to me. It's almost like the men's job is done. Their time is done. Yeah, weird.